Now, emails first reported by the New York Post show frequent communication between the American Federation of Teachers and top CDC officials just days before the Biden administration released its school reopening guidelines. In one email, a teachers union official writes, "It would be great to see the insertion of some variation of the following. In the event high community transmission results from a new variant of SARS-CoV-2, a new update of these guidelines may be necessary." In at least 2 instances, language suggestions offered by the union were reportedly adopted nearly verbatim into the final text of the CDC document. But the AFT, in a statement to Fox News, saying, quote, "The AFT represents 1.7 million educators, healthcare professionals, and public employees who spent the last 14 months serving on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. So naturally, we have been in regular touch with the agencies setting policy that affect their work and lives, including the CDC. In fact, we contacted the agency more in 2020 during the Trump administration than we have during the Biden administration in 2021. But Republicans say the report shows the Biden administration is putting politics ahead of science by consulting one of its largest donor groups. Here's Senator Tom Cotton on the Faulkner Focus a short time ago.
We shouldn't have a politicized public health bureaucracy like the CDC answering at the beck and call of the teachers' unions. We need kids back in school, and back in real school, not sitting in a classroom doing a Zoom session with teachers who are not in the classroom. We need kids in schools with their teachers now.
Karl, welcome to you, and I'd like to start and get your thoughts on this to begin with. Now, in these emails that have now been published pursuant to a FOIA request, we know that the AFT called the CDC a, quote, thought partner, and that in those emails expressed that they were grateful for the CDC's, quote, genuine desire to earn their confidence, and that begs the question whether confidence means donations. The AFT and its affiliates have long been one of the most reliable and deep-pocketed donor constituencies of the Democratic Party, rising up to almost $20 million in donations in the 2020 election cycle. In fact, the AFT is ranked 27th out of 22,000 in contributors. Your thoughts, Karl?
Yeah, let's come back to that money question in a minute. I thought it was disingenuous what the AFT, how the AFT responded. They're saying, look, first of all, we talked more to the Trump administration in 2020 than we've talked to the Biden administration in 2021. Well, maybe that's because the Trump administration was in charge of this COVID issue from February of 2020 through January 20th of 2021, and Joe Biden has only been in charge of this from January 20th through today. So there's a lot more time that they would be talking to the CDC. And the second and more important point to my perspective is this. It's not just the CDC they're talking to. They have the White House included in these emails, including the Office of Public Liaison. When I was at the White House, I was in charge of that office. The people who ran it reported to me. That's your outreach group. That's the people who are talking to your allies and associates out there to try and advance your agenda. So let's not kid ourselves. This was not the AFT, the teachers union, talking to some career government employee at the CDC. They were including the Biden White House in these discussions, subtly sending the message to the CDC, hey, we got friends at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You better be doing what we suggest, which is laying the predicate for us to have more schools that are not holding in-person, in-classroom instruction. So I thought that's a particularly thuggish move, and you'll notice they glossed over it. They weren't just talking to the CDC. They were talking to the White House and using the White House leverage to get from the CDC what they wanted.
That's exactly right, Kaylee. This was indeed a triad in those emails. And when pressed by Jake Tapper, the CDC director, multiple times, he said specifically, I'm quoting here, "Can you point to any scientific reason for students in the United States not to return to in-person classes tomorrow?" Director Walensky could not or would not offer a scientific explanation.
Right, because there wasn't a scientific reason, there was a political reason, and it was the influence of the teachers union. I thought the Biden administration followed the science. They passionately proclaimed that. But in fact, they have the teachers union dictating the science. This is extraordinary. I think this is a huge scandal. We knew back in July when I stood at the White House podium that schools should be reopened. The data showed us that. I said it multiple times, as did President Trump and others. And here we are down the road. and the teachers union is reviewing guidance. They actually got to review the guidance there at the CDC before it came out. You have, if you listen very carefully to President Biden and his words, he will say we should probably reopen schools in the fall. He said that as recently as last week, even though every teacher will have had an opportunity to be vaccinated, and older children over the age of 16 as well. It is incredible, and the disproportionate impact here falls on young working moms. We saw that New York Times op-ed today, which said the biggest gender issue of our time will be working moms who cannot go back to work, who have young children and are forced to stay home. And we see that they're going back into the workforce at a much lower rate than men. And President Biden, you are directly responsible for that gender inequality gap we're seeing.
Kennedy, as the New York Times puts it, the biggest issue of gender equality in 2021 may well be whether schools return to near normal in the fall.
Yeah, and that is especially true for younger children in preschool. And, you know, obviously preschools are not beholden by and large to the Department of Education. And, you know, they have been following some of this guidance as well. And they've been very sporadically opening and serving families. And when it comes to families, you don't hear about learning. You don't hear about parents. Parents are left completely out of these discussions. It's really just about this massive power grab from the union. And here they are writing the language for the CDC that's getting inserted into their recommendations. So how instrumental was the AFT in writing some of the COVID relief legislation that gave schools $130 billion, up to $200 billion, that, you know, most of it doesn't even get to the schools for another 3 years. So, yes, they donated $20 million to Democratic campaigns in 2020, and that's so they can look over politicians' shoulders and write this legislation for them so it benefits them completely. When I say them, I mean the teachers' union. I don't even mean teachers. It's definitely not students. It's not kids who are in most need of the services that are provided at school, particularly mental health and some of the food supplementation that is given to them on a daily basis from these public schools. And they're the ones who are completely left out in the cold, especially middle schoolers and high schoolers. They don't care if they ever come back, frankly.
And Karl, we see that direct influence on legislation. Obviously, I mean, even saw it with the Greater New York Hospital Associations. They're writing that immunity clause for themselves that made it into New York's budget. So back to the White House, how is it possible for them to maintain with a straight face that they are impervious to political influence, that they are only following the science, when here now it is laid out in black and white before our eyes? Well,
Kennedy touched on it. The American Federation of Teachers is one of the most powerful and most generous political givers, as you pointed out. They gave $19,903,000 in political contributions in the 2020 election cycle, virtually all of it to Democrat candidates, virtually all of it, just a handful of gifts to a handful of Republicans. Think about this. In the school funding in the COVID relief bill, not the bipartisan bills passed last year, not the 5 measures that got wide bipartisan support. We're talking about the Biden administration straight party line vote, $129 billion in public education funding. That means for every dollar in campaign contributions, they got $6,481.26 in COVID relief money. Now, why is that important? Because the CDC in December said we need to remediate the effects of COVID in all of our public schools, up to $422 for each one of the 50 million plus students in our public schools, which was roughly then $21 billion. And that's assuming that you remediated the entire transportation system of the schools, which turns out to be far more expensive than remediating the classrooms themselves and protecting the students. So all they really needed was $21 billion. And Kennedy's right. Most of that money, very little of that money gets spent this year out of the COVID relief bill. The remediation money gets spent. The rest of it gets spent over the next decade. In fact, more money is spent in the last 6 years of the decade than is being spent this year on education, including the remediation efforts. So look, this is a big, giant, expensive gift to the teachers union, and they got it in part because they gave a lot of political money and they provide a lot of political muscle to Democratic candidates. It's not pretty. Imagine what would happen, fill in the blank of if you did that for a Republican group that gave political money, and you can imagine what the headlines would be in the Washington Post and the New York Times.
Harris.
Well, Karl, I'm just going to get in a quick word on that, and then we're going to move to what's happening with Governor Cuomo that's breaking right now. But the thought of that being in the last 6 years, that spending, that would mean that the children who really paid the highest price educationally throughout the pandemic, some of them won't even be in school still, right?
Sure,
they'll be in those
absolutely.
middle school and high school grades. They won't even get to benefit from that spending.
And look, the biggest benefit to these children is to get them back in the classroom. The schools have got
Amen.
budgets for that. They've got their annual budgets. Get them back in class. And that, to me, is just amazing that the teachers union is trying to find yet another excuse to keep a generation of our young children from learning as they should and reaching the goals that they need in order to have a successful life. What is going to happen to this lost year? And they want to turn it into more than a lost year
So
and have the
sad.
authority to do so.
It's like Senator Cotton said to me, we were talking about how, you know, the teachers union basically just gave its homework to the White House, and they put some of that in along with the CDC right into their new guidelines.